Sea mists rolled thick over the Iron Islands at dawn, turning the jagged reefs beneath Pike's cliffs into phantoms of broken stone. The salt wind carried the iron scent of kelp and rusted chains, and gulls shrieked as though at some omen only they perceived. Within Balon Greyjoy's grim stronghold, torches guttered along narrow causeways, their flames paling before the encroaching gray. The halls smelled of oil-soaked wool and the sea forever gnawing at black rock. Theon Greyjoy, son in name, hostage in truth, stood before his father's war council with damp hair clinging to his brow, feeling every inch the stranger he had always denied being. Balon spoke of conquest. His voice was flint striking steel, sparking schemes of burning the Greenlands while the wolves of Winterfell bled in the south. Around the salt table the captains nodded. Dagmar Cleftjaw with his ruined grin, Harlan the Harrow black-tide muttering prayers to the drowned god. Stout Sigfry Sharp as eager for plunder as a boy for sweetmeats. Victories were recited, thralls imagined, iron prices weighed. Yet Balon never once named Theon as heir. He spoke of him only as leverage, a hostage returned, a pledge of ironborn might at King Robb's left flank until such time he might be gutted for sport. Theon swallowed the insult like brine. Robb Stark, he thought, Robb who called him brother, who spared him no laughter or name-day gift, who saw in him not the silhouette of a rival but the shoulders of a companion. Robb's banners were out, his sword hand bleeding for vengeance. Yet at his side there was always place for Theon's jest, Theon's counsel, Theon's loyalty. Loyalty, the word told in Theon's skull like a distant bell, muffled by waves but undeniable. Balon saw only rebellion. Robb had shown him trust. Dagmar spoke of the soft wolf, howling in the south while the Iron Fleet could choke the north's lonely coasts. We strike Deepwood Motte, Dagmar rasped. Then White Harbor. The wolf will limp home to ashes. Balon gave his nod, thin lips curling. The Starks grew fat on wolf's meat while we dined on salt and spray. It is time they taste famine. Theon's stomach turned. He imagined the hearths of Winterfell, the rust-reddened weirwood leaves drifting across courtyards he had once ridden through laughing. He saw Bran's solemn stare, Rickon's gap-toothed grin, Maester Luwin's quills scratching each dawn. Used and discarded, all to sate a father's hunger for pride sharpened by 10 years of defeat. A cold thought crystallized. They will butcher boys whose names I know. When the council broke, Theon lingered in the shadows of the Kraken Hall. Balon's footsteps receded down an echoing passage. Theon pressed fingers to the iron studs of a door and felt them tremble. Or perhaps he trembled. The vision of burning Winterfell left ashes on his tongue. A storm of voices rose within. Pride, shame, fear, yearning. I was never truly Ironborn, one hissed. You were never truly a Stark, another mocked. Choose. He chose at dusk. That night, Pike's corridors were latticed with darkness and lamplight. Reavers drank in the Great Keep, celebrating plunder not yet won. Theon slipped through lesser-used sculleries with the soft-soled boots Maester Luwin once insisted he wear for archery practice. No guards checked him. Balon's blood gave him the rights of a prince. In the western tower he found Kyra, a serving girl he had kissed at 14 beneath the endless rain. She still wore her hair in salt-sleek braids and bore a rope scar along her forearm, a gift from some drunken thrall master. She gasped when he stepped from shadow. "Back to whisper flattery, my lord?" she murmured, voice bitter as seawater left too long in a cask. "I need the harbor keys," Theon said. "The sea bitch is mine by grant of father's own writ. I would sail her tonight." Kyra eyed him. "The tide's neap. You'll run aground." "I'll chance reefs over chains. Please." Perhaps she heard desperation. Perhaps she remembered a long-ago promise that he'd send for her when he came into glory. She produced a tarnished ring of keys and pressed them into his palm with a sigh. "Theon Greyjoy, you live like a storm. Storms drown. Wolves swim," he answered, though the words made little sense even to him. He left her with a kiss that tasted of unshed tears. Outside, clouds shredded moonlight across a restless sea. Theon crossed the rope bridges linking Pike's towers, each step swaying over black chasms where white foam exploded in silence far below. He forced his breath steady. At the final span, a sentry drowsed near an anchor post. Theon slipped behind, struck the man with the pommel of his dirk, eased him down, and whispered a prayer he half remembered, either to the drowned god or the old gods, whichever might forgive treason. The docks lay quiet but for the tide's susurrus. The sea bitch bobbed against pilings, her black hull tar-slick. The kraken painted on her sail furled tight like a secret shuttered behind eyelids. Theon climbed the gangplank, boots silent as regret. Below deck 3 oarsmen snored among coiled ropes. They were young and unarmed, pressed into Balon's fleet for speed rather than skill. Theon nudged one with a toe, dirk bared in warning. "Wake only when we are clear of shore," he hissed. Panic widened their eyes. Iron silence sealed their tongues. He freed the mooring lines, heartbeat thundering. The ship slid from the dock like a shadow fleeing torchlight. Oars bit water in slow rhythm. Sail rose to kiss a faint wind. Pike shrank to silhouette. Somewhere within its walls Balon Greyjoy plodded to salt Winterfell's fertile fields. Theon turned his gaze northeastward toward the Bight, toward White Harbor, towards Winterfell beyond, and past that, Riverrun where Robb waged war. He would not bring ruin. He would bring warning. Days became haze. Dawn painted the deck honey gold. Dusk bled it crimson. Nights draped it in velvet whispering of home. The 3 oarsmen, lads named Garmund, Tristopher, and soft-spoken Meryn, watched Theon with wary obedience. He did not reveal his purpose, only set course along the coast, hugging fog-shrouded peninsulas. They skirted Deepwood Mott unseen, rode a river's mouth by moonlight, and threaded shoals known only to iron-born pilots. Theon kept to solitude on the forecastle, gripping the rail until knuckles blanched. Memories assailed him. Robb's laughter beneath bare island pines. Bran perched atop Winterfell's broken tower. Lady Catelyn's stern smile when Theon bested Jory in archery. Each recollection pried another scale from the armor he wore about his heart, leaving it raw and beating. On the 5th night, a storm thundered across an uncharted bay. Lightning forked the heavens, casting skeletal silhouettes of cliffs. Waves rose like siege towers, battering the sea bitch's hull with iron fists. Theon lashed himself to the mast, bellowing orders drowned by wind. Reef the sail, man the rudder, bail the bilges. Garmund slipped, struck his head, blood mingled with rain. Tristopher seized the helm with white-knuckled terror. Meryn clung to the prow singing a drowned prayer. Theon felt the sea's rage as a living will, one that demanded sacrifice. He recalled Balon's words, "What is dead may never die." He screamed defiance into the gale, swearing he would not drown for a god he no longer served. Dawn found them adrift amid debris, barrels, a broken spar, and Garmund's lifeless body lashed to the railing. They wrapped him in sailcloth stitched with kraken sigils. Theon spoke both the words of the drowned god and a northern prayer, voice hoarse. May the sea carry him swift to halls of quiet water. May the trees remember his name. They gave him to the deep. As Garmund sank, Theon tasted salt on his lips that was not sea. 3 souls left and an oath unspoken. White Harbor's looming breakwaters were carved like fangs, but beyond them lights glittered along graceful promenades. The city slumbered beneath early autumn stars, banners limp in still air. Theon guided the sea bitch through narrow channels until they lay beneath the shadow of a granary pier. He turned to his remaining sailors. "You are free men. No man will call you oathbreakers. Remain here 2 days. If I do not return, sail wherever wind gifts you freedom." Tristopher frowned. "And you, my lord?" "I am no lord tonight," Theon said. "I am a messenger." He wrapped himself in a hooded cloak dyed stark gray, scavenged from a captured hold years ago. Streets wound before him in cobbled spirals. The guard at the new keep gate hailed, startled by a lone traveler. Theon invoked Robb's name, called himself envoy, produced a crude seal carved of driftwood. Perhaps it was the confidence of his stride or the desperation in his eyes. Either way, they ushered him within, sent a runner to Ser Roderick Castle, castellan of Winterfell who now commanded White Harbor's defenses in Robb's absence. Ser Rodrik entered the torchlit hall with whiskers bristling like a gray lion, hand resting upon pommel. His gaze fell upon Theon and froze between disbelief and fury. "You dare haunt these walls?" Theon knelt. "I come with warning, not blades." Rodrik's voice was iron. "Robb should have hanged you in Riverrun when he had the chance." "Perhaps," Theon said, "but he did not. And because he did not, I bring you Balon's plans. Deepwood Motte, White Harbor, then Winterfell's heart while the young wolf fights Lannisters. I stole a ship. I sailed through tempest. My blood stains these boards same as any man's. Hear me." Rodrik motioned guards aside but kept distance, as though Theon were a live ember. Theon spoke for hours, recounting councils, captains, fleet strengths. He hid nothing, neither Balon's disdain nor his own doubt. By dawn's first blush, Ser Rodrik's sternness wavered. "If truth," he said, "this betrayal of blood for honor, you risk death thrice over." Theon's eyes burned. "Honor," he whispered. "Call it fear, fear of watching brothers burned for a father's vanity. Call it love if you dare. I call it choice." He rose. "Send Raven to Robb, and let me stand sentinel upon your decks when Ironborn come. I have sailed the storms of my father's making. I know their cunning." Rodrik stared long, as if measuring the space between sword and sheath, between past and absolution. At last he offered a soldier's clasp. "Then stand you shall, Theon Starkborn or Greyjoy renounced, whichever name the gods will." Tears blurred Theon's vision as fingers met calloused palm. Robb Stark received the Raven at Riverrun amidst siege plans. Gray ink bled across parchment. "Balon will strike your shore while you bleed Lannister gold. Trust in the one who bears the wolf true." Robb read thrice. His council clamored. Great John called treachery. Meage Mormont spat curses. Edmure fretted. But Catelyn read the lines and saw beneath them the hand who once taught Bran to loose an arrow half-drawn. And she said, "Theon has chosen." Orders winged north. Banners shifted. Garrisons marched. When Balon's fleet emerged beneath storm-shattered flags, expecting easy prey, they found White Harbor bristling with scorpions and nets weighted with pitch-soaked timber. Fires bloomed upon black-sailed hulls. Shrieks echoed as Ironborn leapt into frigid waters now aflame. On the outer quay, Theon led a sortie of harbor guards board to board, dirk and axe flashing. He fought Dagmar Cleftjaw atop a listing deck, steel ringing memory against bone. Dagmar's grin faded beneath each parry. At last, lightning bright, Theon's blade drove through the old Reaver's mail, pinning him to the mast he had once boasted would carry the wolf's heads. Dagmar coughed red, surprised. "Traitor!" His eyes glazed before the word finished. Smoke veiled the horizon. Ships burned to embers or fled. Amid shattered lines, Theon waded through flotsam until splintered beams caught his shin. He sank to knees, seawater mixing with blood. Gulls spiraled overhead like priests of some new faith. On the quay, Ser Rodrik lifted him up, face grave, and Robb's banner, the dire wolf rampant, rose against an autumn sky gold with sunrise. Winterfell later welcomed them with silent snow dusting ramparts. Bran greeted Theon from his wicker seat by the hearth, eyes deep as pool ice. "You found your way home," Bran said. "Or forged one," Theon replied. He felt the words carve scars and heal them all at once. In the gods' wood he knelt before the heart tree. He felt no need to speak. The rustling boughs seemed to understand the story he carved upon their bark simply by breathing. He was ironborn and wolf-raised, bound by blood yet freed by choice. Far away Balon's rage would thunder, but beyond that stood Robb's faith, Bran's strange wisdom, and the quiet promise of a different life. A life earned, not taken. Snow drifted onto Theon's shoulders. He let it settle. The world turned still, as if the old gods themselves held breath. And somewhere deep within the wood, a lone wolf howled. Not in mourning but in welcome, its voice carrying over frozen battlements, across rivers and tides, to the edges of every path Theon had walked to reach this moment. He lifted his face to the sound, and for the first time since childhood, he answered. Morning unfurled over Winterfell like a shy lover drawing aside soft furs. Dawnlight touching tower tops first, then creeping down slate roofs to glimmer upon the frost-webbed courtyard. Theon Greyjoy woke in the small chamber Robb had granted him, sheets tangled from uneasy dreams. The sea devouring wolves whose pelts leaked black water, a father's face carved into cliff rock, eyes weeping rust. For a heartbeat he could not breathe. Then the scent of pine smoke and fresh-baked oat bread steadied him, anchoring him to solid stone rather than heaving decks. He dressed slowly, fingers lingering over the leather jerkin stitched with no sigil yet. Maester Luwin had suggested forging a new device, half direwolf, half kraken, but Theon had demurred. Symbols were promises, and he was not ready. He belted his sword, its weight familiar as sin, and stepped into hallways alive with hushed bustle. Servants lugged new rushes, stable boys dusted snow from shaggy rounceys. Septa Bethany hummed a hymn whose words he once mocked. No one met his eye for long. Rumor moved faster than ravens. Traitor turned herald, turncloak turned savior. Some whispered wolf-born reaver, others simply stormchild. He walked through judgments like drifting snowflakes, letting them melt upon him. At the great hall's entrance he paused. Robb stood before the central hearth, marmoreal in thought, warming hands scarred with fresh blisters from practiced sword. Gray wind lounged at his feet, yellow eyes half-lidded yet watchful. Beside Robb towered Great John Umber wrapped in a bearskin that still stank of autumn hunt, Ser Roderick Castle smoothing mustache ends, and Lady Catelyn, red hair threaded with silver, lips pressed thin. Theon's step echoed, for heads turned. Gray wind rose, hackles neither stiff nor smooth. Assessing. Theon bowed. "My lord." Robb's face cracked into something between smile and grimace. "Brother." The single word felt awkward in air thick with unspoken charges. Catelyn inclined her chin. "We were discussing invitations." Her voice glinted. Great John barked laughter. "Aye, invitations blood-inked." He slapped Theon's shoulder such that joints rattled. "The Isles won't soon forget burning hulls and netted krakens." "Well struck, lad." Theon swallowed. "Not struck enough. Balon sails still." Robb gestured him nearer. "Sit. We plan." A long oak table lay scattered with maps, wax seals, scrolls, and little wooden beasts. Direwolves, lions, krakens, flayed men. Roderick nudged the kraken piece far left where lonely light jutted in churning blue paint. "Spies say Euron crows I returns to pike. Black sails out of the sunset sea." He tapped the board. "Balon gathers every ship that floats. Another assault will come." Catelyn's gaze flicked to Theon. "Yet we cannot strip men from the trident. Tywin Lannister camps at Harrenhal and stirs." Robb clenched a fist. "If my father were here, he'd say hold fast the north before grasping at southern vengeance." He met Theon's eyes. "Can you counsel what Balon plots next?" Theon exhaled. "He bleeds from the harbor wound, but sharks circle thrice when wounded. He may raid lightly, Saltcliff, Bear Island, to draw defenders thin, then strike Moat Cailin. With the causeways seized, all north beyond the neck is cut off." Great John slammed the table. Pieces danced. "Let him try. My giants will break their spines." "Marsh giants fare poorly in knee-deep water," Theon answered. "Ironborn fight like eels. Slippery, vicious, gone before you clutch them." Roderick harumphed. "What would you do?" Silence pooled. Theon felt every stare prick like nettles. He thought of his father's counsel, the rhythm of their cruelty, the pride in Balon's eyes when men screamed what is dead may never die. He cleared his throat. "Strike Pike first." Catelyn leaned forward. "Invade the islands? That is madness. Our ships cannot match theirs." "They do not expect wolves at water," Theon said, "but they expect krakens at wall and gate." Balon trusts the Isles unassailable. His fleet spreads out. A swift strike, one tower toppled, one sacred stone shattered, might fracture his certainty. Roderick considered. "We have longships captured after the harbor battle. Crews willing to follow you." Rob rubbed the map's edge. A spear of wolves in Kraken belly. Could you guide it? Theon's heart thrummed. I can. Caitlyn's brow tightened. And if Pike's halls lure you back? Theon met her challenge. If I falter, slit my throat and cast me from the ramparts. I swear by salt and snow. Gray wind huffed, tail thumping once as though sealing oaths. Rob nodded. You'll sail south tomorrow with a dozen chosen. Quiet as seabirds. Strike, then withdraw. Meanwhile, we send ravens to Lady Meage Mormont and Lord Glover. Shore defenses must hold. He placed a hand on Theon's shoulder. Do this, and when songs are sung, they'll call you true wolf. Theon felt heat rise behind eyes. I never sought songs, he murmured. Songs find the worthy, Rob replied. Night before departure, Theon wandered the godswood. Snowflakes tumbled lace-light through branches like ghosts seeking rest. The heart tree loomed pale, face bleeding sap too red to be of winter. Theon's breath fogged as he knelt beneath its boughs. Words tumbled out. Fragments of childhood, confessions of fear, promises half-formed. He spoke to old gods he barely knew, to a drowned god he'd forsaken, to his own uncertain soul. When silence swallowed his last syllable, wind responded. No voice, only hush broken by distant wolf cry. Yet some weight eased, as though the old trunk had heard and was neither angered nor pleased, only listening. Footsteps crunched snow. He turned to Bran wheeled by Hodder. The boy's eyes reflected starlight. You leave again. For a while, Theon said. Bran tilted his head. I saw you on a cliff, waves crashing. You held a torch that would not burn out even in rain. Theon managed a smile. Dreams. Sometimes dreams are doors, Bran whispered. When you light the torch, remember where home is. Theon bent, pressed forehead to Bran's. I will. His voice cracked like thin ice. They sailed before dawn. 12 vessels. 6 captured raiders crewed by Northerners for White Harbor Ordcogs, and 2 battered fishing ketches scouted ahead. Each flew blank canvas to avert suspicion. Hull seems freshly tarred. Snow-laden wind howled off the white knife, yet skies cleared to brittle blue by noon. Theon commanded the sea bitch again, her scars hastily patched, masts strung with NE.
Hemp.
At his side stood Meryn, now first mate, and 14 volunteers whose names he etched into memory as talismans. Arlen Reed with Bow of You, Hoary of Hornwood who cursed twice per breath, Kaelin Castle nephew to Ser Roderick, Dour sister Sela and Willa Manderly wielding axes in tandem. None asked for pay, only vengeance. The fleet hugged coastlines, slipping between islands like whispers between lips. Theon charted courses few Ironborn expected, using hidden coves once taught by Uncle Aaron while learning to drown and rise reborn. On the 4th day, they anchored behind a crumbling stone needle named Widow's Finger where gull nests reeked. From here Pike lay 2 tides west. Moonless night promised cover. Dawn tide offered escape. Below deck's torchlight flickered across steeled nerves. Theon addressed them. Balon Greyjoy wronged each of you. Burned your halls, drowned your kin. Carved, we do not sow into flesh. Tonight we reap. We strike Pike's grain stores, torch the rope walk bridging Sea Tower and Great Keep, topple the idol of the drowned god facing bay. Then out. Do not linger for plunder. We are shadow, not storm. Arlen Reed spat into palm. Shadow bites harder in dark. Murmurs of ascent thickened like mead. Torches quenched, sails reefed. Oars dipped silent. Stars wheeled overhead as if the world tilted to watch. Near midnight cliffs rose, blacker than curtain cloth. Theon guided them to a cave mouth half-submerged. Years ago he and Asha played pirate here, rowing skiffs through tunnel mazes. Now he listened for echo of childhood laughter, but heard only drip of unseen water. They passed beneath arching rock alive with barnacles. Inside, the cave widened into hidden lagoon lit by phosphorescent lichen. Boats glided onto sand. Men and women disembarked, weapons wrapped to mute clink. Theon led upward through a narrow fissure opening behind goat pens. Rank odor greeted them. Goats bleated alarm before Willa soothed with handful of grain. Beyond pens, Weathered steps snaked toward the great keep's outer wall. Guards lounged at parapet, 3 ironborn sharing skin of ale. Theon signaled. Arlen's arrow hummed. 2 guards slumped. Sela and Willa scaled wall cat-like, dispatched third with twin axe-hafts. Ropes unfurled. Others climbed. In silence orchestrated by fear, they breached pike. Courtyard lanterns swung in wind. Ironborn Smith hammered at Enville, sparks painting beard. He looked up in time to see Hory's cudgel. Hammer and skull rang concurrently. No dog barked, no horn blew. Only sea's distant roar kept measure. Theon slipped toward granary, a squat stone rotunda where Balon stored grain captured from stony shore raids. 2 sentries warmed hands at brazier. Theon recognized one, Newt the barber, who once gifted him a whetstone on name day. Recognition slowed his stride, blade half-drawn. Memory stabbed, Newt laughing as thralls screamed. Theon finished drawing. Steel shivered. Newt fell, eyes wide. Second guard died on Marin's spear. Within, sacks towered to rafters. Sela sloshed lamp oil, Willa scattered flax straws. Theon struck flint. Flames whooshed, devouring dry wheat with voracity reserved for wolves upon lamb. Smoke belched through shutters. Bells clanged. Horns finally brayed alarm. Too late. They raced along parapet to rope bridge linking sea tower to Great Keep. Balon's pride, 60 feet above surf, woven of hemp as thick as man's thigh. Kaelin hacked anchor ropes. Others hewed planks. The bridge groaned then sagged, midspan snapping. Weighted end plunged into churning fury below. Splinters cartwheeled like gulls. Alarm spread. Torchbearers flooded courtyards. Theon glimpsed armored figures. Aaron Damfair's hair streaming like kelp as he roared prayers. Carl the maid brandishing twin dirks. And, heart-lurching, Asha Greyjoy astride a black horse, eyes blazing confusion. Sorry, sister, he thought. But there was one deed left. At cliff edge facing bay stood a towering wooden statue of the drowned god. Arms raised to storm, bearded mouth forever spitting sea. Balon prayed here each dawn. Theon dashed across slick rock, companions fending guards. He slammed axe into statue's shin. Wood splintered. Others joined, hacking rhythmic. Cracks spidered upward. Asha's shout rang behind. Who desecrates? Theon did not turn. Final blow, support shattered. Idol lurched, teetered, and toppled over ledge. It crashed upon rocks, shattering into driftwood. Thunder of drums answered. Castle rang with clamor. Theon signaled retreat. They fought toward Goatpen Fisher. Ironborn surged. Spears, axes, curses. Marin took blade to thigh yet limped ahead. Arlen loosed arrows until quiver emptied, then used bow as staff. Snow began falling, fat flakes melting on hot blood. In tunnel, seawater lapped knees. Retreating waves sucked boots. Boats awaited. They shoved off just as torchlit figures crowded cave mouth. Arrows hissed over black water. One struck Kaelin's shoulder. Hory hauled him down. Another lodged in rudder. Sela rode with uncanny strength, cursing through tears of adrenaline. Outside, fleet regrouped. Flames rose behind. Granary and Inferno casting orange crescents upon waves. From ruptured bridge sparks fell like meteors. Horns bellowed rage, but pursuit ships still at anchor, crews rousing. Theon stood at prow, chest heaving. Salt spray mingled with sweat, stinging cut on cheek. He watched pike shrinking, smoke pillar twisting into night sky like a signal to gods and men. Iron can burn, kraken can bleed. Dawn's far pale light revealed damage. Kaelin fevered, Marin limp but grinning, Sela with hair singed. They tended wounds, lashed spars, rationed water. Spirits soared despite pain, prophecy inside each breath. They had done the impossible. 2 days later, sails appeared astern. Black squid on gold. Pursuit at last. Theon counted 3, maybe 4 warships, oars churning. His smaller fleet lacked speed heavy seas demanded. He ordered course change toward the Weeping Water, a narrow fjord along Rill's coast where cliffs constricted approach to single file. Their numbers mattered less. As they neared, wind shrieked funneling between rock jaws. Waves dashed hulls against slate. Theon positioned captured longships in line across Strait Mouth, anchoring each with stone-filled barrels. Crews readied scorpions salvaged from White Harbor, tar pots, nets spiked with iron teeth. Kraken warships advanced. Leading vessel Iron Victory bore blackened ram. Theon recognized her master. Victarion Greyjoy, his uncle, looming at prow helm in full plate, drowned prayer bones rattling. Victarion raised axe in salute, then motioned attack. Arrows darkened sky. Shields clanged. Theon's men loosed scorpion bolts. One punched through Iron Victory's sail. Another skewered rower. As ships closed, Theon signaled release. Nets weighted with pitch spilled, entangling oarbanks. Lit flasks followed, flames racing oil. Rowers shrieked, decks became pyres. But Victarion drove forward. His ram sheared through a fishing ketch, splitting it. White Harbor cog grappled him. Boarding planks thudded. Battle became chaos of steel and splinters. Theon fought near mast toppling, struck helmeted skulls, parried hook blades. He glimpsed Victarion carving through defenders, unstoppable. Willa blocked blow meant for Theon. Axe meeting axe. She staggered, blood spraying. Fury wrenched Theon beyond reason. He charged Victarion. Their weapons rang. Sparks flew. Victarion laughed. Voice thunder amid inferno. "Boy, you drown this hour." He swung overhead. Theon crouched, slashed inside guard, blade skidding along breastplate. Victarion backhanded him. Stars burst. Deck tilted. Water surged ankles. Fire roared overhead. Theon rose dizzy, weapon lost. He seized burning plank, swung wild, ember rain scattering. Victarion roared, cloak ablaze. He ripped it free, but flames licked beard. Shock widened his eyes. A moment's opening. Theon grabbed dropped axe. Not his own, heavy as grief, hewed at Victarion's knee seam. Metal buckled. Victarion fell to one leg. Theon heaved again, burying blade deep. Victarion toppled, crashing through railing into hungry surf below, armor dragging. Water hissed, extinguishing fire, then closed. Shouts faltered. Ironborn morale cracked. Some leapt overboard to escape spreading flames. Theon's fleet cut lines, drawing back. Burning hulks drifted, plugging fjord like molten corks. Smoke choked pursue path. At sunset, only cinders floated. Theon's men counted losses. 3 ships sunk, 10 dead, including Willa, whose twin Sela wept silent. Yet greatest blow lay with Victarion's fall. News that would thunder across isles, tearing seams of Balon's wrath. They limped home. White Harbor cheered as sails appeared. Bells rang. Fishwives threw salt cakes. Robb had returned northward, awaited in audience yard. When Theon disembarked, he bowed not to his own acclaim, but to those behind him. "They are heroes," he said. Name by name he hailed them, even the dead, and crowd repeated until names became chorus. Robb clasped Theon's forearm. "Well met, Kraken Bane." Theon shook head. "I slew an uncle I scarcely knew. The song will tell more than truth." "Sometimes songs are mercy," Catelyn said softly. Her eyes held sorrow for every life lost, not only northern ones. She turned to War Council waiting behind. Lady Meege, Ser Roderick, Manderley envoys. Balon's fleet flounders, his captains quarrel. Tywin cannot march north by sea now. We have breath. Robb surveyed courtyard, then distant ramparts where lanterns twinkled. Breath enough to call our banners home. Winter is near and Lannister gold buys Sellswords even in frost. We will face them on our soil, united. He looked to Theon. "And you, how fare you?" Theon considered the ache in ribs, the smell of smoke forever lodged in hair, the image of Asha's shocked face. Like a rope cut from anchor, I float yet search for handhold. Robb clasped his shoulder. "Stay. Forge your place here." Maester Luwin produced parchment bearing new sigil. Direwolf entwined with Kraken, tails meeting, neither devouring. "A suggestion," he murmured. Theon traced ink lines. He thought of Bran's torch dream, of cliffs and flames, of wolves howling his name in fog. He nodded. I will bear it when I've earned it. That night a feast filled hall with venison stew, oat bread, strong northern ale. Minstrels played sprightly but gentle songs. Talk buzzed of victory. Theon sat with Meryn and Sela, sharing tales under candlelight. Yet each laugh carried echo of those lost. Willa's grin, Garmin's silent courage, even Victarion's terrible might. The hall lights shimmered through tears unshed. Later he slipped out to battlements. Sky kaleidoscoped with curtains of pale green aurora dancing across stars. He leaned on cold stone, listening to snow hush, hearts beat. Footsteps approached. Caitlin, cloak heavy with fur. The gods shape strange paths, she said. Strange, he agreed. For what you did, I thank you. Though part of me still fears your blood. He could not fault her. I fear it too. Caitlin's eyes softened. That fear is what makes you safe to trust. She offered small bundle. Leather thong threaded through silver coin carved with direwolf on one face, kraken on other. A reminder. He turned it between fingers. Thank you, my lady. She left him with stars. Winter set its first real teeth 2 weeks later. Rivers iced at banks. Ravens carried frost on wings. Rob quartered troops in keeps across north rather than risk southern snow supply lines. Balon licked wounds in silence. Rumor said Aaron proclaimed Theon cursed, that drowned god's idol toppled signal doom. Some captains mutinied, others sailed far seas seeking easier plunder. The king of salt and rock faced rebellion birthed by his own. In Winterfell's ancient forge, sparks flew as Mikken hammered. Theon approached with scrap of parchment. Designed for new pommel, wolf meeting kraken. Mikken grunted approval. Steel tells truth, he said. Heats, bends, cools, but if heart cracks, blade shatters. Then forge my heart, Theon replied. They worked side by side, bellows blowing breath of dragons. When blade cooled and gleamed mirror bright, Theon felt something settle inside. Not peace yet, but place to plant roots. He sheathed sword, strapped belt, and strode into yard where knights drilled. Snowflakes swirled around him like petals of some pale blossom. Years hence bards would sing of Krakenwolf who bound sea to snow, of bridge that fell and idol that broke, of uncle slain and winter held. But in that hour Theon Greyjoy, son of salt, brother of snow, merely raised practiced sword toward Bran perched on rampart, and the boy waved small hand. Theon smiled, stepped forward, and began once more the slow, patient dance of someone learning to call a battlefield home. Winter deepened. Nights lengthened into velvet midnight edged with azure dawns met by crackling fires. Theon found tasks. Drilling green boys, studying tide tables with White Harbor pilots, learning lumbercraft from Glover men to men's ships. Each dawn he woke before bells, walked ramparts, breathed frost so sharp it felt like biting pears. He wrote letters he never sent. One to Asha explaining choice, one to Balon asking forgiveness he knew would not come, one to Kyra containing only pressed wildflower from Godswood. He sealed them, burned them, watched smoke twist upward, releasing ghosts. In late frostfall, ravens arrived. Lannister forces had marched, golden lions among crimson leaves south of the Twins. War beckoned again. Robb summoned bannermen to Moat Cailin, fortress of the Neck. There they would hold causeway, deny south any path. Theon volunteered to scout rivers by skiff with Reed Cranigman. Robb agreed. Day before departure, Bran visited Forge where Mikken tuned edge of Theon's new sword. Bran's cheeks ruddy from cold. A torch in rain, he said simply. Dream's truth came. Theon knelt. I carry it for all of us. Bran touched blades fuller. Be careful. Storms still chase you. Theon laughed softly. Let them. I know these waters now. They set out. Small bands slipping through Neck's mist-clad islets. Cranigmen guided by swamp song. Reeds whispering secrets. Theon paddled a coracle, light as leaf, spear across lap. Night herons croaked, catfish rippled murk. He felt peace among muted green, water to his soul yet calm, not roaring. Here choices could echo without cacophony. On fourth evening, Campfire ember low. Reed Scout Howland's niece Diana returned breathless. Lannister outriders seen on King's Road south, but more troubling. A black-sailed ship grounded near salt pans bearing sigil of Bloody Cup, Euron's Reaver banner. Ironborn raiders had crossed mainland, massacring fisherfolk, sowing discord. Theon's stomach clenched. Balon's house gnawed still at edges. He gripped spear. "We go." Crannogmen eyed him. Loyalty weighed. They nodded. Swamp paths opened. Under midnight fog they approached salt pans. Smoke curled from smoldering huts. Cries carried on hush. Euron's men caroused around bonfire, captives chained. Theon crept close, heart hammering. He counted 8, perhaps more drunken within wrecked alehouse. He signaled. Crannogmen melted through reeds like wraiths. Spears flew, arrows, sudden screams cut short. Theon charged, sword gleaming silver, cutting bonds of prisoners, then turning steel on raiders. He faced Captain with bloody hook, Ralph the Reaver, whose grin glinted. "Turn cloak," Ralph spat. "Redeemed," Theon answered and ended him. Dawn saw survivors huddled, thanking. Theon offered supplies, guided them toward Moat Caelan's protection. Among them a girl of 6 clung to his leg, her mother dead. Theon carried her half a league until she slept, then passed her to kindly widow from Barrowton. Watching them depart down misty road, Theon felt weightless sorrow and quiet pride intertwine. Crannogmen built cairns for slain. While stones piled, Theon stared east where sea shimmered. Somewhere Asha grieved, somewhere Balon cursed, somewhere storms still brewed. Yet he stood inland, spear but sunk in mud, eyes on rising sun painting reeds gold. He whispered Bran's words, "Remember where home is," and he knew home could be many places, so long as one's torch burned against rain. At Moat Caelan ramparts, Robb greeted him with tight embrace. Stories spread, salt pans saved by Krakenwolf. Men cheered, but war horns soon sounded. Tywin's host advanced, and Balon's last fleet regrouped under Asha to strike again come spring. The world spun on blood and tide. Yet through each trial Theon carried coin of dual beasts, sword of joining steels, oath of salt and snow. He would falter, bleed, doubt, but he had chosen, and choice, once forged, holds edge sharper than fear. Winter's first blizzard swept the neck, swirling white spirals that erased battlefield tracks. Inside Moat Caelan's moss-coated tower, fire crackled. Theon shared broth with Robb, reed broth thick with leeks. Outside, wolves howled. Wind answered. Theon set bowl aside, fingers brushing coin at neck, and watched flakes ghost past arrow slits. "It will be long night," Robb murmured. Theon smiled, embers reflecting in his eyes like tiny suns refusing eclipse. "I have stories to light it." And as storm raged, he began to weave them. Of sea and snow, bridges burning, godswood whispers. His voice a steady flame carrying through dark hours, promising that dawn, whenever it came, would find them still standing, torches held high against whatever waves dared rise. Storm clouds gathered over the neck in layered shades of iron, drifting low enough that the ragged tops of sentinel pines seemed to comb their bellies. Snow still fell in thin, relentless sheets, but the weather was changing, carrying hidden thunder that rumbled like distant drums beyond sight. It was a sound the garrison of Moat Caelan had learned to heed. Thunder in winter meant ice-slick sleet, mud that swallowed mule and man alike, and, more increasingly, war. Theon Greyjoy stood upon the crumbling curtain wall above the northwestern gatehouse, fur cloak whipped flat against his back as a shearing gust screamed through arrow loops. He studied the southern horizon where the King's Road vanished into white haze. There, somewhere under the swirling squall, rode Tywin Lannister's van, and the mixed levies of the Riverlands pressed or bribed into his gold-laced service. Scouts spoke of ranks so broad they stretched a day's march, yet their progress had slowed to a crawl. Winter fought for the north as fiercely as any bannerman, and Theon felt the land's icy breath at his nape like a warning to the bold and the reckless. Behind him, tents crowded beneath sagging pine limbs, patched canvas marked by the sigils of Reed and Ryswell, Umber and Mormont. mixed together in haphazard fortifications of palisade stakes and overturned wagons. Smoke from cook fires rose in trembling pillars only to flatten beneath wind, smearing the heavy sky. Frozen earth crunched under boots as sentries paced the wall walk. Far below in the swampland's labyrinthine channels, crannogmen poled their hide-coated skiffs between reed beds, eyes blackened with mud for concealment, each a whisper of the land's oldest secret. Somewhere among them, Howland Reed himself prepared traps and pitfalls the way a septon prepared prayers. Theon's breath plumed silver. He flexed frost-numbed fingers inside sealskin gloves. A week had passed since the salt pan's raid. The rescued fisherfolk were already scattered to safer villages north of the Neck, and the tale of Krakenwolf had grown improbably grand. Children carved toy direwolves entwined with krakens from driftwood and raced them along ice-rimmed puddles. Roaring battle cries to law. RG for small lungs. Theon wished they would not. The moniker felt heavy as an anchor. Below, the creak of rusty hinges announced the gatehouse door. Robb Stark emerged onto the parapet, snow eddying around his boots. Gray wind padded at his side, fur dusted white. Robb's face appeared older by the fortnight, jaw set in a cold line that matched the season. When he nodded greeting, flakes fell from his auburn beard. "The scouts returned?" Theon asked. Robb leaned his forearms on the frost-slick Merlin. "Tywin camps 30 leagues south. He builds trestle bridges across the flooded flats. Or tries to. Reed's sabotage slows him. Our advantage holds." He exhaled. "For now." Thunder boomed again, closer. Theon glanced upward. The clouds were bruising darker, pregnant with ice. "Storm will turn the flats to bog. Lannister heavy horse will mire. Crannogmen pick them apart. Perhaps." Robb's smile was wan. "But siege towers roll on wheels, not hooves. Wood floats. Men will push. Tywin never meant swift assault. We stand in his teeth. He gnaws until we crack." Theon studied his friend's profile, lines of exhaustion, faint tremor in his right hand. "We need him to swallow something that cuts going down." Robb met his eyes. "You have a plan?" "Not yet." Theon hesitated. "But I remember Tyrion Lannister boasting of stone throwers that outrange any scorpion. If Tywin brought those trebuchets north and we let him entrench within sight of these walls, he'll churn the moat into rubble." Robb's gaze lifted to the ancient causeways, melted into half-frozen sludge, and to the watchtowers, black silhouettes riddled by centuries of pike and Bolton wars. "Can't let that happen." Asai escaped. And there's worse news. Asha's outriders raid Bear Island again. Stannis Baratheon's raven speaks of cell sails massing in Lys. Enemies multiply. Storms break the world into knives. Theon murmured. "We choose which ones to catch." Gray Wind's ears pricked. Steps approached from the spiral stair. Roderick Castle, face flushed from exertion, snow clinging to white whiskers. "My lords," he panted. "Envoy at the Southwood picket, sister to Lord Theon, Lady Asha Greyjoy, rides under black flag of parley." Wind howled between the three men. Robb's breath thickened. "Alone. 12 shield men," Roderick said, "but only one banner of truce. She requests audience at first dark." Theon's stomach dropped as though the wall beneath vanished. Memories of Asha's eyes when the idol fell flashed. Shock, anger, something like hurt. He swallowed. "She will test us." Robb regarded him. "Will you speak?" "I must." What passed for a great hall at Moat Cailin was little more than Central Tower's undercroft, roofed by sagging beams furred with moss, torch scones guttering in damp gloom. Tables were hewn planks balanced on ale barrels. Benches creaked under cloaks heavy with snowmelt. Yet the room felt charged when Asha Greyjoy strode in at dusk, plate mail dull under torchlight. She removed her corroded helm and shook free damp black hair. Eyes as sharp as flint raked the assembly. Lords Mormont and Umber, Meage's daughters daring in bear pelt, Crannogman archers lurking like shadows, Brienne of Tarth towering silent sentinel since joining from Riverrun's released escort. Catelyn Stark presided to Robb's right, her presence alone a blade sheathed yet deadly. Asha's gaze settled on Theon. "Little brother." Voice carried wry warmth plated with steel. I wondered if tides spat you onto stranger shores, or if wolves kept you as kennel pup. Theon met her without flinch. I stand here by choice. Or by need, she countered, stripping sodden gauntlets. You look thinner. Sult fare leking. Noise stirred, mutters the scrape of a chair. Rob rose. Lady Asha, you come under parley. I come under black, yes, she said. Her grin flickered old mischief. Though some here claim black banners fly above traitors' graves. Gray wind growled low. Asha held his yellow gaze a heartbeat before tipping her head. Easy, dog. I bite only those who bear throat. Rob's hand brushed Wolf's ruff. He gestured to a chair across plain plank table. Speak your message. She remained standing. My father summons Theon Greyjoy back to Pike. He offers safe escort. All quarrels born of Moat Cailin. He names ended if the Kraken's wayward tentacle returns to body. Laughter edged bitter among northern lords. Theon's chest tightened. And if I refuse? Asha shrugged. He'll break your bones in effigy, curse them to the drowned god, and keep raiding until North starves. He would rather see you dead than wolf-collared, but he plays at mercy for our name's sake. Mercy, Caitlyn's voice sliced. Asha's reply soft, almost regretful. Mercy bought by blood spilt earlier than dawn. Dagmar, Harlan, Victarion, they were my kin. Balon counts each and the counting fuels him. Rob's eyes narrowed. He forgets the Ironborn who torched fishermen and children.
No forgetting, Stark.
But that's reaving. Our way. Your way is dying, Theon said quietly. Your fleets burn, men mutiny. Victarion is lost. Asha's throat bobbed. You slew him? Theon did not blink. He fell fighting me. I mourn. Long silence. Torches sputtered. Voices outside drifted. Sentinel calls exchanging passwords along parapets. When Asha spoke again, the bravado faltered. You mourn with the wolf pack now, so be it. But I made oath to Mother's ghost that I'd bring you home or know why not. She stepped closer, boots squelching mud onto straw-strewn flagstones, until their breath mingled frost. Tell me, Theon, why? Theon thought of Kyra's keys, of Garmin's stiff body sliding into the deep, of Willa's twin axes parted forever. He thought of Bran's words and the coin that warmed his chest. Because home is where choice leads, he said, not where chains drag. Because a father who rules by fear leaves no sons, only shadows who flee the light. Asha's eyes glimmered. Chains forged by love weigh heaviest. They also rust quickest in salt. Theon reached, offering her small silver coin, direwolf and kraken twined. Keep this, proof that Greyjoys need not drown. She accepted reluctantly. Finger traced the wolf. Balon will never bend. Then bend him to memory, Theon answered. Make a new name. Asha's gaze darted to Rob, to Caitlyn, to torchlit faces hardened by winter. Something flickered behind her daring grin. Hurt, perhaps, or envy. She slid the coin into pouch. I cannot promise peace, but perhaps I can temper the fire. Know that I tried. She donned helm and walked out beneath guard escort, cloak snapping. When gates thudded shut behind her, tension fractured like ice. Greatjon exhaled a guffaw. Greyjoy word of honor worth crab spit. But Caitlyn's stare lingered on Theon, a mother weighing uncertain triumph. Your sister loves you still, she said. Love rarely saves, Theon murmured. But perhaps it slows the blade. 2 nights later, Tywin moved. Snow had ceased, replaced by sleet that glazed every board and stone in shimmering deathtrap. Lannister vanguard advanced upon wooden causeways they'd lashed together. Planks laid over marshy islands, shored by oak staves hammered into muck. Torchlight cast flickers across sludge-smeared armor. Banners drooped under ice weight. They came under lion sigils, but also under twin towers of fiery hearts of Karstark turncloaks who'd bent knee, and lesser houses enticed by coin. Trebuchets rolled atop sledges. Oiled hides stretched to shield gears from frost. From Moat Cailin's tower, War horns moaned like some ancient beast waking. Reed horns answered, low and hollow across Fun. The wind carried strain of bowstrings tightening, the creak of rope nets drawn taut. Theon donned helm newly fitted with neither kraken nor wolf, plain iron. He slung shield canvas rough-painted with stylized torch. Atop battlements, archers massed. Riswell longbows, sworn shields of bare island with short recurves, crannogmen with poisoned reed darts. Below, umber berserkers weighted by broken portcullis to spring into mire and tear gaps. Robb's command post perched upon the tallest tower still standing. From there the young wolf surveyed enemy lantern chains. Theon climbed to join him. The wind tasted of cold metal. Robb nodded without looking away. It begins. Where you go, I follow, Theon said. Robb's mouth twitched. Save that for songs. His eyes were luminous in starlit gloom. Tonight you have another task. Read guides no secret runnels beneath enemy lines. Slip over marsh, ignite Tywin's powder wagons. The trebuchets burn. Their siege dies in swamp. Theon inhaled sharp air. Memories of seawater swirl. Rope bridges falling. Burning idle. He nodded. I'll need 8 good hands. Take Jory's cousins. Brienne if she'll fit the tunnels. And Diana for the small spaces. 7 and 1 child? Theon balked. Robb's voice hushed. She's no child. Crannogs raise warriors at 5. She saved 2 scouts last eve. Theon pictured the 6-year-old he'd carried. How quickly winters forged steel. He withdrew. Night swallowed them. Under cover of thick fog, Theon and his squad crept through freezing shallows, bellies half submerged. Reed guides coated in mud led them with hand signals. Every so often, a distant lantern flare betrayed patrol on causeway above. They froze, breath shallow, water chilling to bone. Frogs croaked sudden silences, as though nature itself paused. The first trebuchet sat on winched platform at marsh edge. Crew huddled round brazier. Theon signaled. 2 archers silent shot flaming arrows into tar-coated sling ropes. Torch oil splashed. Fire blossomed, licking up to pitch-smeared frame. Shouts erupted. Theon's team slipped into reeds. Second target deeper, powder wagon nestled under canvas awning. Diana wriggled through cattails, small as otter, and smeared lamp oil along wool spokes. She emerged, face streaked black, eyes bright. Theon lit stub of candle, touched it to sodden fuse of reed torch, waited breath until spark ate down. Wagon exploded in brilliant orange roar. Flaming boards rained onto flooded flats, igniting dry rushes. Chaos rippled. Mules shrieked, soldiers cursed. Flames reflected crimson on sleet-slick puddles like shards of shattered sunset. Alarm horns blared along Lannister line. Amid confusion, reed blowguns puffed. Darts tipped with frog venom dropped sentries screaming silent. Theon pushed toward final trebuchet, but Golden Lion men rallied. Ser Adam Marbrand on dappled horse trotted ahead of burning glow, visor down. A wedge of shields formed. Forward! Douse those fires! Crossbow bolts hissed. Theon's shield shuddered, shaft splintering. He ducked behind fallen log. Brienne rose, greatsword slicing 2 bolts midair. She roared and charged, boots flinging mud arcs, shoulder hitting shield wall like battering ram. Wood cracked. 1 man toppled. Theon followed, dirk underhand. Marsh churned into melee. Mud-sucking feet, smoke-choking lungs, screams muffled by snow. He parried thrust, riposted, slid blade between gorget and collar, felt warm blood gush across frozen knuckles. Another foe lunged. Diana appeared behind cutting hamstring with reed knife, vanished again. Brienne batted Marbrand's helm sideways. His horse reared, hooves spattering embers. She ripped rider downward into mire, then stepped aside as he drowned in muck too thick to swim. Trebuchet crew abandoned post. Theon and Archer Torwind hurled firepots into ammunition racks soaked with naphtha. They sprinted as frame caught, flames spiraling up like fingers of some wrathful spirit. Retreat became gauntlet, arrows from anxious Lannister bowyers stitching water. 2 of Theon's squad fell, reeds drinking red. A dart stung his calf. Glance only, leather held. Ice numbness threatened. He bit tongue to stay alert. They dragged wounded through belly-deep bog. Every step labor. Hours later, ivy-grown watchtower gate creaked to welcome them. Robb met them in torchlit tunnel, eyes wide with relief. Wordless, he clasped Theon's arm, then moved to wounded, directing leech healers. Theon sank against mossy wall. Blood and marsh filth soaked him, but inside, a fire burned brighter than pyro oil, fierce, wild purpose. Morning revealed battlefield changed beyond counting. 3 trebuchets blackened skeletons. Causeways gutted, smoldering. Carcasses of horses and men half submerged, steam rising. Tywin's host withdrew 2 leagues, battered. Reed's snipers harassed their rear, ghostly in mist. For 3 days Golden Lions attempted no further push. Snow fell thicker, blanketing dead, muting cries. Within Moat Cailin, casualties small but felt. Diana's brother lost eye. 2 Hornwood archers buried. Theon attended rites. Ashes poured into fen waters, prayers in both old gods' tongues and drowned gods' lull. For he insisted every Ironborn captured be given last rites, though some balked. Yet respect grew. Men saw him speak of sea and snow with equal reverence. Whispered title changed. Not Krakenwolf, but Torchbearer, one who brought fire against darkness. Catelyn spoke with him often, questioning dreams she sensed guiding him. He could not explain Bran's visions, only that he felt them too, like tides tugging under skin. She listened, lantern glow soft on lined cheeks. In her acceptance, he found forgiveness he had not sought but desperately needed. Winter wore on. Supply dwindled faster than hope. Salt pork rationed, barley stretched with beetle flour. But Tywin fared worse. His Southmen lacked snowcraft, disease spread. Ravens told of dissent. Karstark rebels deserting. Frey men brawling. Siege engineers frozen stiff. Still, a lion cornered Nashes. One night, Reed's scouts captured Lannister courier riding white palfrey across moor, bearing sealed scroll. Theon and Robb read by sputtering candle. Asha Greyjoy's signature. She offered covert alliance. If North allowed her fleet safe passage to raid Westerland's coast, she would sabotage Balon's flagship at Pike, crippling further Ironborn assaults. She asked for proof of good faith, the return of 50 captives from harbor battle. War Council argued long into dawn. Meej Mormont spat that krakens could not be leashed.
Ser Rodrigues expected trap.
Catelyn weighed risk against chance to bleed both enemies. Ultimately, Robb turned to Theon. Could she mean this? Theon considered his sister's mischievous loyalty, her disdain for Balon's rigid pride. Asha may love Salt, but she loves freedom more. Balon's war chains her as much as me. She would cut them if she could. Robb exhaled. We gamble, then. He penned reply. Captives would be exchanged at Sealskin Point under truce. Ironborn raids on the North cease. Asha free to harry Lannister gold ships south of Fair Isle. He placed Quill down. Your hand deliver this. Thus began Theon's darkest voyage. Sealskin Point jutted from ragged western coast, waves hammering basalt cliffs into spires like dragon teeth. Snow squalls whipped foam into needles. Theon sailed aboard White Harbor Swiftcog Winter's Tide, its hull sheathed in ice, crew hooded in seal fur. 50 prisoners below deck muttered prayers. Some Ironborn, others Lannister sailors captured at sea. Night cloaked the sea when beacons flared atop distant promontory. 3 longships drifted near shore. Asha's black wind at center, sail reefed. Theon ordered rowers to heave, oars dipped, thudding muffled. Moon peeked through rift in clouds, silvering whitened crests. Boards met as ships moored stern to stern. Torchlight painted faces. Asha stepped across plank. Wind clawed her cloak. She surveyed prisoners lined with wrists bound. You keep your word, I see. Her gaze lingered on Theon's coin worn as pendant. Theon nodded. And you, she gestured. Ironborn sailors rolled 2 casks onto deck. Staves bore freshly carved kraken sigils scorched. She knocked lid. Inside black powder bricks, fuses coiled. Enough to send father's sea tower sky high, she said, her smile feral. If you'll lend me spark. Theon felt tightness in chest. You would kill him? Kill his crown, not his bones. Blow planks, sink flagship, humble pride. He'll rage, but priests will claim it omen. Without ship, without idol, Balon's claim as sea king falters. A council may elect mourning daughter to rule until storm passes. Theon studied her, eyes bright with possibility. And the north untouched? Raid lines drawn south, Lannisport, Fair Isle, even Old Town if tide favors. Gold flows north to repay wolf debt. We free ourselves, you safeguard yours. Both bleed the lion. She extended hand. He took it. Done. Prisoner exchange swift. Ironborn slashed bonds, ushering comrades across, offering stiff salutes to captors who nodded solemn. Asha's men offloaded powder fast, covering crates with tarps. Sea wind howled above. When last barrel passed, Asha squeezed Theon's shoulder. Come with me. See it done. Theon shook head. My place remains. Her smile wavered. Then may tide favor your torch. She leapt to her deck. Oars dipped. Black wind slid into dark, followed by phantom shadows. Theon watched until sails vanished. He felt strange emptiness, relief braided with dread. Powder kegs stowed below deck. Winter's tide turned east, chasing dawn. 3 weeks later, ravens screamed news. At Pike, mysterious blast rocked Sea Tower's drydock. Flagship Iron Victory 2 sunk half-finished. Balon's own quarters shattered. Rumors said a daughter's treachery. Others said God's wrath for idols' fall. Balon ranted. Captains convened at Lordsport Hall and left murmuring about Queen's moot. Theon read message aloud to Robb amid war table, pulse thrumming. Tywin, meanwhile, had withdrawn south beyond marsh to more solid ground, unwilling to bleed further men to mud. He fortified new line at Fever River crossing, building winter camp. He awaited spring. For the first time since autumn, peace, tentative, brittle, settled over the neck. Snow fell softer. Ravens rarely shrieked. Wounded healed. People breathed. Against newfound hush, Bran arrived at Moat Cailin escorted by Jory's uncles, sled pulled by shaggy Garrons along packed snow. He wished to see the world he dreamt of. Theon met him at gate. Child's smile warmed frost. They talked by hearth. Bran told of weirwood songs, of wolves and krakens swimming dream seas tangled together. Theon shared tales of salt pans, marsh battles. The boy's eyes brimmed awe and sorrow. The trees told me war would end only when choice breaks the chain, Bran whispered. Theon frowned. Chain? Of hate, Bran said simply. Of names. We hold them like anchors. Let go, float. Theon remembered Kyra's keys, iron taste of tears on ocean spray. He felt chain links fall. Later he went to forge. He retrieved his sword, torch on pommel, and heated metal until cherry glow. Mikken watched. Theon lifted hammer, struck sigil once, twice, reshaping lines until neither kraken nor wolf dominated. Flame morphed edges into sweeping curve like wave crest merging with wolf's howl. Final tap rang clear. He quenched blade. Steam hissed, rose as ghost. He emerged into dawn's first crimson streaks. Snowbound courtyard silent save distant caw of raven. He held sword up. Red sunrise gleamed upon tempered steel. Robb descended tower stairs, cloak open to cold. He saw eyes alight. What name bear you now? Theon considered. No name, he said. Just man walking path. Robb smiled. Path long yet. Theon returned smile. I have time. Spring's edge would come months later, bringing new crises, Bolton treachery, southern plots, dragons across narrow sea. But in these brief winter weeks, Moat Cailin became cradle to legends not yet sung. Fires crackled in towers where and sea only damp lay. Children chased each other on frozen pond, laughing. Mothers baked bread sweetened with last honey stores. Sentries shared jokes with crannic guides. And high upon age-pitted wall, torchbearer kept vigil, eyes reflecting starlight. Some nights, wind carried salt scent from far western seas. He touched coin at throat, whispered silent greeting to sister riding black swell somewhere beyond horizon, forging her own chain-breaking journey. Other nights, he walked parapets with Bran beside in wicker chair pushed by Hodder. They watched auroras ripple across sky like banners of unseen realm. Bran spoke of wolves running through those lights. Theon closed eyes and imagined himself among them, paws pounding snow, breath silver, heart free. When Goddess Winter finally loosened grip, Tywin retreated fully south. Balon's power fractured. Iron Islands erupted in moot. Rumblings of peace talks spilled from King's Landing corridors. Yet the world remained fragile. Still, torches burned in the neck. Theon lit each personally at dusk, a chain of flame along walls, symbol to friend and foe. Darkness would meet light here, shaped by choice, held aloft by hands once feared to bear only shadow. And somewhere deep within tangled memory of waves and weirwoods, he understood that home had ceased to be a place of stone or salt, but a bond of hearts brave enough to stand amid uncertain storms, carrying fire that even rain could not extinguish. So he stood, snow swirling around rising sparks, sword resting easy at hip, gaze on horizon where dawn would break, in its own time, on its own terms, but certain. For Torchbearer believed now, as wolves believed and krakens learned. No tide lasts forever, and all storms end in dawn for those who dare hold the flame long enough to see.